Have you ever wondered why, despite your best efforts, your greatest dreams remain just beyond your grasp? Why some invisible force seems to pull you back every time you gather the courage to leap forward? The answer lies not in the external world of circumstances, but in the hidden recesses of your own mind, in what I call your hidden self. My friends, what I'm about to share with you today has transformed the lives of thousands of individuals across America. In my decades of studying the most successful men and women of our time, I've discovered that 98% of people never realize their true potential, not because of lack of opportunity, but because they remain blind to the invisible enemy operating within their own consciousness. This hidden self operates like a saboteur, working tirelessly behind the scenes of your awareness, planting doubts, nurturing fears, and creating invisible barriers to your success. It's the reason why so many talented individuals fall short of greatness, why brilliant ideas never see the light of day, and why countless dreams wither on the vine of hesitation. You see, what separates those who achieve extraordinary success from those who merely dream about it isn't intelligence, education, or even opportunity. It's their ability to recognize and master this hidden aspect of themselves, the part that most people never even acknowledge exists. Today, I'm going to reveal to you the exact method I've taught to business titans, political leaders, and extraordinary achievers across all fields, a method that has enabled them to identify and overcome the hidden self that has been secretly determining the course of their lives. This knowledge has been jealously guarded in certain circles of influence, but I believe the time has come to make it available to those ready to receive it. By the end of our time together, you will possess the key to unlocking a power within yourself that you never knew existed. You will understand how to identify the hidden patterns that have been controlling your decisions, limiting your vision, and keeping you trapped in cycles of frustration and disappointment. What I'm about to teach you isn't merely theory or philosophy. It's a practical approach to personal transformation that produces measurable results. I've seen men and women apply these principles and completely revolutionize their lives in a matter of months, sometimes even weeks. Now, before we begin this journey of discovery together, I want you to make me a promise. Promise that you won't simply listen passively, but that you'll actively engage with these ideas, testing them in the laboratory of your own life, for knowledge without application is like having a map to bury treasure but never picking up a shovel. If you're ready to meet the hidden architect of your failures and transform this adversary into your most powerful ally, then I invite you to join our community of forward-thinking individuals who refuse to settle for mediocrity. Subscribe to this channel now and become part of a movement that is revolutionizing the way we understand human potential and achievement. Let me speak plainly about the crisis that faces nearly every person who has ever aspired to greatness. You see, within the mind of every individual exists not one self, but multiple selves, each with its own agenda, its own desires, and its own method of operation. The most dangerous of these is what psychologists might call the shadow self, but which I have come to know simply as the hidden self. This hidden self was formed in the crucible of your earliest experiences, taking shape during moments of fear, shame, or perceived inadequacy. It was born as a protective mechanism designed to shield you from pain, but over time, it has grown into something far more insidious, a silent saboteur that works tirelessly to maintain the status quo, even when that status quo brings you misery and limitation. Consider for a moment the man who dreams of financial independence yet sabotages every opportunity that comes his way. Or the woman with extraordinary talent who finds herself paralyzed by fear whenever success appears on the horizon. These are not merely cases of bad luck or circumstance. They are the direct result of the hidden self at work. The conventional wisdom tells us that success is merely a matter of setting goals, developing skills, and taking persistent action. And while these elements are certainly important, they utterly fail to address the deeper psychological forces at play. This is precisely why so many self-improvement programs produce temporary results at best. They focus on changing behaviors without addressing the hidden architect that designs those behaviors in the first place. Let me share with you the story of Robert, a brilliant engineer who came to me after decades of frustration in his career. On paper, he had everything required for extraordinary success: a first-rate education, remarkable intelligence, and innovative ideas that could revolutionize his industry. Yet, time and again, whenever he approached a breakthrough moment, something would go wrong. Important presentations would fall flat. Promising partnerships would dissolve at the last minute. Funding would mysteriously evaporate. When we began our work together, Robert was convinced that he was simply cursed with bad timing and poor luck. But as we delved deeper into his patterns, a remarkable truth emerged. Hidden within Robert was a powerful belief formed during his childhood that standing out from the crowd invited ridicule and rejection. This belief had been planted when, as a precocious young student, his academic success had made him a target for bullies and even inspired jealousy from his own father, who had never finished high school. This hidden self had been protecting Robert by ensuring he never truly stood out, never fully claimed his power, even as his conscious mind desperately pursued success. Every time he approached a breakthrough, this hidden aspect of his personality would activate, causing him to unconsciously sabotage his own efforts. Robert's story is far from unique. I've witnessed this same pattern in countless individuals, from aspiring entrepreneurs to struggling artists, from athletes to executives. The pattern remains remarkably consistent. The conscious mind moves towards success while the hidden self pulls in the opposite direction, creating a devastating internal conflict that manifests as external failure. Most people live their entire lives caught in this invisible tug-of-war, never understanding why their efforts fail to yield the results they so desperately desire. They exhaust themselves fighting against external circumstances when the true battle is taking place within. They become part of what I call the silently defeated majority, individuals who have surrendered to limitation without ever understanding the true source of their struggle. The minority who triumph, those rare individuals who achieve truly extraordinary success, have all discovered, either through guidance or through painful trial and error, how to identify and transform this hidden self. They have learned to turn their greatest internal adversary into their most powerful ally. What I am about to share with you represents the culmination of over 20 years of intensive research, countless interviews with the most successful men and women of our time, and a deep exploration into the hidden mechanics of the human mind. This is not information you will find in ordinary books on success or in the common discourse about achievement. This is specialized knowledge that has traditionally been available only to those fortunate enough to move in certain rarefied circles. I call this approach shadow integration, and it differs fundamentally from conventional self-improvement methods. While most approaches focus exclusively on positive thinking, affirmations, and willpower, shadow integration recognizes that sustainable success requires us to work with all aspects of the self, including those parts we would rather keep hidden. You see, most people spend their entire lives running from their shadows, never realizing that within these disowned aspects of themselves lies tremendous untapped power. The very qualities they reject, their anger, fear, selfishness, ambition, or vulnerability, contain the energy and wisdom necessary to achieve their greatest dreams. During my extensive interviews with Thomas Edison, I observed how he had developed an extraordinary relationship with what most would consider failure. While the average person views failure as something to avoid at all costs, Edison had integrated this shadow aspect of experience, transforming it into one of his greatest assets. "I have not failed," he told me during one of our many conversations. "I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This integration of the shadow of failure gave him a resilience and creative persistence that ultimately led to some of history's most transformative inventions. Similarly, my conversations with Andrew Carnegie revealed how he had transformed his early experiences of poverty, experiences most would run from or attempt to forget, into a driving force behind his unprecedented business success. Rather than rejecting the shadow of scarcity, he integrated its lessons and energy into his approach to wealth creation. What these extraordinary individuals understood, often intuitively, was that the hidden self isn't something to be conquered or eliminated. It's a powerful force that, once properly identified and integrated, can be redirected toward positive ends. The very energy that has been working against you can, with the right approach, become your greatest ally in pursuing your dreams. Now, I understand that this may sound somewhat abstract at this point, but I assure you that what follows are concrete, practical techniques that anyone can apply, regardless of their background or education. These are methods that have been tested and refined through application in the lives of thousands of individuals across every conceivable field of endeavor. What makes this approach so revolutionary is that it doesn't require you to become someone different, some idealized version of yourself that feels foreign and inauthentic. Instead, it shows you how to become more fully yourself by reclaiming the aspects of your nature that you've disowned or repressed. This is not about adding something new to your character, but about recovering something that has always been there, waiting to be acknowledged and integrated. The path I'm describing is not always comfortable. In fact, it requires a certain courage to confront aspects of yourself that you may have spent a lifetime avoiding. But what I can promise you is this: on the other side of that confrontation lies a freedom and power that few people ever experience. The freedom to pursue your dreams without the hidden self-sabotage that has been derailing your efforts. You are about to discover a different path, not the path of endless struggle against yourself, but the path of integration and wholeness. And while this path may not always be easy, it is infinitely more effective than continuing the exhausting battle against your own hidden nature. What you are about to learn has allowed ordinary men and women to achieve extraordinary results, not by fighting harder, but by ending the internal war that has been consuming their energy and undermining their efforts. It is the missing piece that explains why some individuals seem to achieve remarkable success with apparent ease, while others struggle endlessly despite their talents and efforts. Are you ready to discover what truly lies beneath your fears and limitations? Are you prepared to meet the hidden architect of your struggles and transform this force into the builder of your success? If so, then let us proceed to the practical principles that will guide you on this transformative journey. To identify and transform the hidden self that has been quietly determining the course of your life, you must first understand the fundamental principles that govern its operation. These principles are not speculation or theory. They are laws of mind as reliable and consistent as the physical laws that govern the material world. The first principle is what I call the mirror of consciousness. Your conscious experiences reflect the hidden beliefs and patterns operating beneath the surface of awareness. Just as a calm lake reflects the sky above, your external circumstances mirror your internal reality. The challenges, obstacles, and limitations you encounter are not random occurrences but precise reflections of the hidden self's unacknowledged beliefs and fears. Consider your life as a vast theater production. While you may believe you're the director of this grand performance, there is another force, the hidden self, that has been writing the script from behind the curtain. The recurring patterns in your relationships, career, finances, and health are not coincidences. They are scenes from a script written in the invisible ink of your deepest beliefs about yourself and the world. I recall the story of Margaret, a talented writer who came to me after decades of struggling to complete her novel. Despite her obvious gifts, she found herself paralyzed whenever she approached the final chapters. Through our work together, she discovered that her hidden self harbored a profound fear of judgment that dated back to a childhood humiliation when her teacher had read her story aloud, only to have it mocked by her classmates. This single incident had created a hidden belief that public expression invited ridicule, a belief that manifested as writer's block precisely when her work approached completion and potential publication. Once Margaret recognized this pattern, she could see how it had manifested throughout her life in countless situations, from abandoned projects to relationships that she sabotaged just as they became serious. The mirror of consciousness had been reflecting her hidden fear in various forms throughout her life, but she had never recognized her own reflection in these recurring patterns. The second principle is the law of emotional resonance. The hidden self communicates through the language of emotion, not logic. When you experience a reaction that seems disproportionate to the situation at hand, you are receiving a direct communication from the hidden self. Imagine walking through a magnificent house where most rooms are brightly lit, comfortable, and welcoming. But occasionally you encounter a door that fills you with inexplicable dread when you approach it. Perhaps your heart races, your palms sweat, or you feel a sudden urge to go in any other direction. These emotional responses are signposts pointing to the hidden rooms of your consciousness, the domains ruled by the hidden self. Consider the experience of James, a gifted public speaker who could command any room with confidence and charisma until the moment he needed to discuss his fees. Whenever the conversation turned to money, James would feel a wave of shame and discomfort that compelled him to undervalue his services drastically. Through exploring this emotional resonance, James discovered that his hidden self carried a belief that had been formed when he overheard his father, a minister, saying that money is the root of all evil. This childhood misinterpretation had created an unconscious association between financial success and moral corruption. The emotional discomfort James felt wasn't random. It was a direct communication from the hidden self, enforcing a boundary created decades earlier by a child's limited understanding. By recognizing this resonance, James could begin the process of updating this outdated belief system. The third principle is the paradox of protection. The hidden self was originally formed to protect you from perceived danger. And no matter how self-defeating its strategies may now appear, it is still operating from this protective intention. Understanding this paradox is crucial for transformation. Think of the hidden self as an overprotective parent who, having once saved you from a hot stove, now prevents you from entering the kitchen entirely, even decades later, when you are perfectly capable of safely navigating cooking hazards. Its methods may be outdated and its understanding limited, but its fundamental intention is your protection. I worked with Edward, a brilliant entrepreneur whose business repeatedly reached a certain level of success before inexplicably falling apart. As we explored his patterns, we discovered that his hidden self associated exceptional success with abandonment. As a child, his father had been consumed by a successful business venture and had gradually disappeared from family life. The hidden self, still operating from the perspective of that young boy, was actually trying to protect Edward from a similar loss by ensuring his business never reached the level that had taken his father away. Once Edward understood that his self-sabotage was actually a misguided attempt at self-protection, he could approach his hidden self with compassion rather than frustration. This shift in perspective was essential to transforming the pattern rather than simply fighting against it. The fourth principle is the alchemy of integration. What you resist persists, but what you embrace can be transformed. The hidden self cannot be conquered through force of will. It must be acknowledged, understood, and integrated. Imagine trying to push an inflated beach ball underwater. The more force you apply, the more violently it will eventually burst back to the surface. This is precisely how most people deal with their unwanted emotions and shadow aspects. They push them down, only to have them erupt with even greater force at the most inopportune moments. True transformation requires a different approach. Consider the ancient art of alchemy, which sought to transform lead into gold. The modern psychological equivalent is not the elimination of our darker aspects, but their transformation through conscious awareness. Just as a skilled alchemist doesn't reject the lead but works with it directly to elevate its nature, you must learn to work with your hidden self rather than against it. I witnessed this principle powerfully demonstrated in the life of Eleanor, an executive whose career was repeatedly derailed by conflicts with authority figures. Rather than continuing to battle what she perceived as difficult bosses, Eleanor took a radically different approach. She began exploring her relationship with authority and discovered a hidden self that had been formed during a childhood dominated by an unpredictable, controlling parent. Instead of continuing to resist and react to authority figures, Eleanor began acknowledging her triggers and the hidden beliefs driving them. As she integrated these aspects of herself, something remarkable happened. The very assertiveness and boundary setting that had once emerged as reactive defiance transformed into leadership, presence, and principled negotiation skills. The energy that had been directed toward conflict was alchemized into executive authority. The fifth principle is the law of opposing forces. Within every fear lies its opposite desire. Within every self-sabotaging behavior lies a positive intention. Understanding this duality is essential for transformation. Consider that darkness is not a force in itself, but simply the absence of light. Similarly, fear is not separate from desire, but its shadow side. Every fear points to something you deeply value. Fear of rejection reveals a desire for connection. Fear of failure reveals a desire for meaningful achievement. Fear of loss reveals a desire for security and stability. I worked with William, a talented artist who repeatedly abandoned promising projects, much to his conscious frustration. When we explored the pattern, we discovered that his fear of completion was actually the shadow side of his desire for creative perfection. His hidden self, unable to reconcile his magnificent vision with the inevitable limitations of execution, chose abandonment over perceived imperfection. By recognizing that his self-sabotage was actually driven by a positive intention, the pursuit of artistic excellence, William could begin integrating this opposing force. Rather than fighting against his perfectionism or surrendering to abandonment, he learned to channel this energy into a committed practice of excellence that acknowledged the beauty of artistic growth and the necessity of completion. These 5 principles provide the foundation for identifying and transforming the hidden self. They reveal that what appears as external limitation is actually internal conflict, that emotional triggers are valuable messengers, that even self-defeating patterns contain positive intentions, that integration rather than rejection is the path to transformation, and that within every fear lies its opposite desire. Now I invite you to reflect on what you've learned thus far. Which of these principles resonates most strongly with your own experience? What patterns in your life might be reflections of your hidden self at work? Leave a comment below, sharing the insight that speaks most directly to your situation, and let's continue this journey of discovery together. As you contemplate this approach to identifying and transforming your hidden self, I can almost hear the questions and doubts forming in your mind. These hesitations are not only natural but expected. Indeed, They are often the first line of defense employed by the hidden self to maintain the status quo. Let us address these concerns directly, for in doing so, we strip them of their power to derail your progress. Isn't this just another form of psychoanalysis, you might wonder? And doesn't that take years to produce results? This approach differs fundamentally from traditional analysis in its focus on practical transformation rather than endless exploration, while understanding the origins of your hidden self is valuable. We are ultimately concerned with its transformation in the present moment. The principles I've shared with you are designed to produce tangible results in weeks or months, not years or decades. Consider that when you turn on a light switch, the darkness vanishes instantly. Similarly, when you bring conscious awareness to the hidden self's patterns, their power begins to diminish immediately. The transformation may deepen over time, but the shift begins the moment you see clearly what has previously operated in darkness. But if the hidden self is truly unconscious, you might ask, how can I possibly identify something I can't see? This is a perceptive question that cuts to the heart of the challenge. While it's true that the hidden self operates beyond ordinary awareness, it leaves unmistakable tracks in the visible world of your experiences. Just as a wildlife tracker can determine the size, species, and direction of an animal they've never seen by studying its footprints, you can identify your hidden self by observing the patterns it creates in your life. Have you ever noticed how certain situations trigger emotional responses that seem disproportionate to the circumstances? Or how specific patterns of self-sabotage recur throughout your life with almost predictable regularity? These are the footprints of your hidden self, visible to anyone willing to observe with honest attention. What if I discover aspects of myself that I find disturbing or unacceptable? This concern touches on a profound truth. Confronting the hidden self often means acknowledging qualities we have spent a lifetime disowning. Yet the pioneers of depth psychology and the wisdom traditions alike have discovered that what we resist not only persists but grows stronger in the shadows. Ask yourself, has avoiding these disowned aspects of yourself actually freed you from their influence? Or has this avoidance merely driven them underground, where they continue to operate beyond your conscious control? The paradox of personal transformation is that we must be willing to see and accept ourselves completely before genuine change becomes possible. This all sounds well and good for those with the luxury of self-reflection. You might object, but I'm dealing with real-world problems that require practical solutions. This perspective assumes a false dichotomy between inner work and outer results. The truth is that your external circumstances are the direct manifestation of your internal reality. The businessman who cannot break through a certain income ceiling, the artist who repeatedly abandons projects near completion, the individual who consistently finds themselves in dysfunctional relationships, all are experiencing the outer effects of inner conflicts. No amount of external strategy can resolve a problem that stems from the hidden self. You may change jobs, relationships, or locations, but if the inner pattern remains unaddressed, it will simply reproduce the same limitations in new circumstances. The work of transformation is not a spiritual luxury. It is the most practical approach possible to creating lasting change in your life. What about those who seem to achieve great success without doing this inner work? This is perhaps the most compelling objection, as we can all point to individuals who appear successful despite obvious unresolved issues. Yet external achievements alone do not tell the complete story of a life. How many successful individuals destroy their health, relationships, or peace of mind in pursuit of goals that never satisfy their deeper needs? True success encompasses not only external achievements but also inner fulfillment and harmony. The seeming exception, those who achieve outer success while avoiding inner work, often find themselves empty at the summit. wondering why their accomplishments fail to bring the satisfaction they promised. As one prominent business leader confided to me after achieving everything on his list of goals, "I've won every game I chose to play," only to discover I was playing the wrong games. Ask yourself this question. Are you willing to remain at war with yourself simply because confronting your hidden self requires courage? Are you content to live at a fraction of your potential because the path to wholeness demands honest self-examination? Would you rather maintain comfortable illusions about yourself than access the tremendous power that awaits beyond them? The objections I've addressed are not merely intellectual arguments but emotional resistance disguised as rational thought. Your hidden self will present countless reasons why this approach cannot work for you specifically, why your situation is uniquely unsuited to this method, why you should return to more familiar strategies despite their proven ineffectiveness in your life. This resistance itself is valuable information, a sign that you are approaching something of genuine significance. For the hidden self fights hardest when its fundamental patterns are threatened with exposure. The degree of resistance you experience often correlates directly with the potential transformation that awaits on the other side of that resistance. The question that remains is not whether this approach works. The transformed lives of countless individuals stand as testament to its effectiveness, but whether you are ready to apply it with the consistency and courage it requires. Are you prepared to look squarely at what you have spent a lifetime avoiding? Are you willing to challenge the fundamental assumptions upon which you have built your identity? Are you ready to meet your hidden self not as an enemy to be conquered but as a disowned aspect of yourself awaiting integration? The path I offer is not for everyone. It requires a particular kind of determination, not the forceful determination that attempts to overcome obstacles through sheer will, but the receptive determination that welcomes uncomfortable truths as stepping stones to freedom. If you find yourself hesitating, know that this hesitation is not a sign to turn back, but a threshold guardian marking the boundary between your familiar limitations and your unexplored potential. Now that we've established the fundamental principles and addressed the common objections, let us turn to the practical integration of this knowledge into a comprehensive approach for transformation. For principles without application remain mere intellectual curiosities rather than catalysts for genuine change. The work of identifying and transforming your hidden self can be understood as a journey from fragmentation to wholeness. In the fragmented state, different aspects of yourself operate at cross purposes, creating internal conflict that manifests as external limitation. In the state of wholeness, these same aspects work together harmoniously, channeling their combined energy toward your conscious intentions. Imagine your psyche as a magnificent orchestra. In its fragmented state, each section plays its own composition without regard for the others, creating cacophony rather than music. The string section your intellect might be playing Mozart, while the percussion, your emotions, pounds out a military march, and the brass section, your instinctive drives, blares jazz improvisations. The hidden self is like a phantom conductor, invisibly coordinating this discord according to patterns established decades ago. The integration process transforms this chaos into harmony not by silencing any section of the orchestra, but by bringing all musicians under the direction of a conscious conductor, your aware self. When properly integrated, the same instruments that once created discord now generate a symphony of unprecedented power and beauty. This metaphor illuminates the fundamental truth that transformation does not require you to eliminate any aspect of yourself, but rather to bring all aspects into conscious relationship with one another. The very qualities that have been working against you, your fears, your desires, your protective mechanisms, contain the raw energy required to propel you toward your greatest achievements. To facilitate this integration, I have developed a practical framework I call the 4 chambers of transformation. Like the chambers of the heart that work in coordinated sequence to circulate life-giving blood throughout the body. These 4 processes work together to transform your relationship with your hidden self. The first chamber is identification. This process requires you to become a detective in your own life, looking for patterns that reveal the hidden self's operation. Begin by examining recurring challenges or limitations in your life. Do you repeatedly encounter the same obstacles despite changing external circumstances? Do certain situations trigger emotional responses that seem disproportionate or irrational? These patterns and triggers are not random, they are direct expressions of the hidden self. David, an accomplished attorney, applied this process to understand why he consistently sabotaged opportunities for partnership in his firm. By examining the pattern carefully, he noticed that his self-sabotage typically occurred when he received public recognition for his achievements. This observation led him to a crucial insight. His hidden self equated visibility with vulnerability. This association had been formed in childhood when standing out in his family had made him a target for an alcoholic parent's unpredictable rage. The second chamber is dialogue. Once you've identified a pattern, you must establish communication with the hidden self that created it. This dialogue is not merely intellectual but deeply experiential. Begin by writing a letter from your conscious self to the hidden self responsible for a particular pattern. Express your frustration, ask your questions, and state your desire for change. Then, crucially, write a response from the hidden self to your conscious self. You may be surprised by what emerges in this exchange. The hidden self typically reveals protective intentions behind seemingly destructive behaviors. The dialogue process creates a bridge between your conscious intentions and unconscious patterns, beginning the essential work of integration. When Emily, a talented entrepreneur who repeatedly undercharged for her services, engaged in this dialogue process, she discovered that her hidden self was protecting her from the jealousy and rejection she had experienced in childhood when her successes had created distance from her struggling family. What appeared on the surface as poor business sense was actually a complex strategy to maintain essential emotional bonds. The third chamber is renegotiation. Having established dialogue with your hidden self, you can now renegotiate the outdated agreements and beliefs that have been governing your life. This process acknowledges the positive intention behind the hidden self's patterns while creating new approaches that serve your present circumstances and conscious desires. The key to successful renegotiation is honoring the hidden self's protective intention while offering more effective alternatives for achieving that same protection. Rather than fighting against these patterns, you work with the underlying intention, redirecting its energy toward constructive ends. Robert, whom I mentioned earlier, renegotiated with his hidden self by acknowledging its legitimate concern about social rejection, while demonstrating that in his adult life, his expertise and achievements actually created connection rather than isolation. He created new approaches to managing visibility that addressed both his conscious desire for success and his hidden self's need for safety in relationships. The fourth chamber is embodiment. True transformation requires not merely intellectual understanding but lived experience that reinforces new patterns. In this phase, you create deliberate opportunities to practice new behaviors that contradict the hidden self's limiting beliefs, gradually building evidence that challenges its outdated assumptions. This embodiment must be approached gradually, much as you would train a muscle through progressive resistance. Begin with challenges that stretch your comfort zone without triggering overwhelming resistance. Then gradually increase the difficulty as your capacity grows. Each successful experience becomes evidence that contradicts the hidden self's limiting beliefs, Margaret, the writer I mentioned earlier, embodied her transformation by first sharing her work with a small, supportive writing group, then gradually expanding to larger audiences. Each positive experience of sharing her work without experiencing the ridicule she feared provided tangible evidence that contradicted her hidden self's core belief. Eventually, she completed her novel and submitted it for publication, something that would have been unthinkable before this process of integration. These four chambers, identification, dialogue, renegotiation, and embodiment, work together as an integrated system, creating a continuous cycle of transformation. As you move through this cycle repeatedly, the relationship between your conscious self and hidden self gradually shifts from adversarial to collaborative. Now, let me offer you a simplified plan of action to begin this work immediately. First, select one specific area of your life where you experience recurring limitation or self-sabotage. Focus on concrete patterns rather than abstract concepts. A specific income ceiling you cannot surpass. A particular relationship dynamic that repeatedly undermines your happiness, or a self-sabotaging behavior that consistently derails your progress. Second, apply the identification process by documenting this pattern in detail. When does it occur? What specific thoughts, emotions, or behaviors characterize it? What circumstances or triggers typically precede it? Look especially for emotional reactions that seem disproportionate to the situation. These are valuable clues to the hidden self's operation. Third, initiate the dialogue process through written exchange between your conscious self and the aspect of your hidden self responsible for this pattern. Allow both sides to express themselves fully without censorship. Pay particular attention to the protective intention behind the limiting pattern. Fourth, use the renegotiation process to acknowledge this protective intention, while proposing new approaches that serve both your conscious goals and the hidden self's need for security. Remember that lasting change requires cooperation, not conquest. Finally, create a concrete plan for embodiment that allows you to practice new behaviors in progressively challenging situations, building evidence that contradicts the hidden self's limiting beliefs while reinforcing your new understanding. This integrated approach addresses the whole person: thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and behaviors, creating transformation that is both profound and sustainable. Unlike conventional approaches that treat symptoms while ignoring root causes, this method creates fundamental change at the level of identity, allowing your external circumstances to shift as a natural reflection of your internal transformation. When you successfully integrate your hidden self, you experience not only greater external success but also an inner alignment that brings profound fulfillment. The energy that was once consumed by internal conflict becomes available for creative expression and purposeful action. The same force that was your greatest obstacle becomes your most powerful ally in creating the life you truly desire. My friends, we stand now at the crossroads of possibility. Before you stretch two diverging paths, one leading to more of the same experiences you've always known, the other opening into territory of extraordinary achievement and fulfillment, the choice of which path to follow rests entirely in your hands. I have shared with you the fundamental principles and practical methods for identifying and transforming the hidden self that has been secretly determining the course of your life. I have shown you how this invisible force operates behind your conscious awareness, creating patterns of limitation and self-sabotage that no amount of positive thinking or conventional strategy can overcome. And I have offered you a systematic approach to transforming this force from your greatest obstacle into your most powerful ally. But knowledge alone changes nothing. Information without application remains merely intellectual entertainment, interesting perhaps, but ultimately inconsequential. The true measure of value lies not in what you now know, but in what you will do with that knowledge. The work I've described is not for the faint of heart. It requires courage to confront aspects of yourself that you've spent a lifetime avoiding. It demands honesty to acknowledge patterns that contradict your preferred self-image. It calls for persistence to continue the process of transformation even when progress seems slow or resistance arises. Yet consider the alternative. What is the cost of continuing as you have been? What price have you already paid for allowing the hidden self to operate unchecked in your life? How many dreams have remained unrealized? How many talents unexpressed? How many opportunities squandered because of this invisible saboteur? And more importantly, what might become possible if you were to integrate this powerful force rather than fight against it or submit to its limitations? What achievements might lie within your reach? What fulfillment might await you? What contribution might you make to the world if the energy currently consumed by internal conflict were redirected toward your highest purposes? The sad truth is that most individuals will never undertake this journey of transformation. They will continue to blame external circumstances for their limitations, never recognizing the internal patterns that create those very circumstances. They will try one superficial strategy after another, wondering why the results remain stubbornly unchanged. They will live and die without ever discovering the extraordinary potential that lay dormant within them. But you need not be among them. Having heard what I've shared today, you can no longer claim ignorance of these forces. You have been given a map to territory that few ever explore, the hidden landscape of your own consciousness where the true causes of success and failure, fulfillment and frustration are to be found. The question that faces you now is not whether this approach works. The transformed lives of countless individuals stand as testament to its effectiveness. The question is whether you will apply it with the consistency and courage it requires. Do not wait for perfect conditions to begin this work. Do not tell yourself that you will start tomorrow or next week or when your circumstances improve. The hidden self thrives in the realm of postponement and procrastination. Today, this very moment contains all the opportunity you need to take the first step toward transformation. Begin immediately with the practices I have outlined. Select one limiting pattern in your life and apply the 4 chambers of transformation: identification, dialogue, renegotiation, and embodiment. Document your insights and observations. Create specific opportunities to practice new approaches. Treat this work not as an occasional interest, but as a fundamental discipline essential to your success and fulfillment. Remember that transformation is rarely a single, dramatic event, but rather a process of consistent small choices that accumulate over time. Each time you choose awareness over avoidance, dialogue over resistance, or new behavior over familiar patterns, you strengthen the architecture of your new identity. These seemingly small choices, made consistently, ultimately determine the quality and direction of your life. The responsibility for this transformation rests entirely with you. No one else can do this work on your behalf. No mentor, no teacher, no system or methodology can substitute for your own committed engagement with the process. I have provided the principles and methods, but only you can apply them to the specific circumstances of your life. Imagine yourself 1 year from today, looking back on this moment. Will you see it as just another instance of temporary inspiration followed by continued limitation? Or will you recognize it as the pivotal point when you chose to embark on the journey of transformation that changed everything? The hidden self has been operating throughout your life, creating patterns of limitation that have kept you from realizing your full potential. Today marks your opportunity to bring this force into conscious awareness, to transform it from adversary to ally, and to redirect its tremendous energy toward the achievement of your highest aspirations. Do not underestimate what becomes possible when you undertake this work with genuine commitment. I have witnessed individuals transform circumstances that seemed hopeless, achieve goals that appeared impossible, and create lives of extraordinary impact and fulfillment through the application of these principles. The same possibility awaits you, if you will claim it. The time for half measures and temporary fixes has passed. The time for transformation has arrived. Not tomorrow, not when circumstances change, not when you feel more ready. Now, subscribe to this channel to join our community of individuals committed to this journey of transformation. Share in the comments below the most significant insight you've gained from our discussion today and the specific action you commit to taking as your first step. Your contribution may provide exactly the inspiration another person needs to begin their own journey. Remember that the greatest tragedy is not failure but unfulfilled potential. The dreams unrealized, the gifts unexpressed, the contributions never made because of limitations accepted as unchangeable. You were created for more than you have yet become, and the world needs what only you, in your uniqueness, can offer. The hidden self that has limited you can become the very force that propels you toward greatness. The fears that have held you back can transform into the courage that drives you forward. The patterns that have sabotaged your efforts can evolve into strategies that ensure your success. This transformation begins with a single choice: the choice to see yourself completely, to confront what you have avoided, to integrate what you have rejected, and to become, at last, the full expression of who you were created to be. Make that choice now. Your hidden self awaits your recognition. Your unfulfilled potential awaits your commitment. Your extraordinary future awaits your decision. The time is now. The choice is yours. The transformation is inevitable for those who begin the journey.